today with the wonderful Asiya Korepanova, and we're here to discuss her brilliant career. I love young pianists, and I get very excited about their concerts and premieres, especially this one for April 1st in New York for the 150th anniversary of every pianist's favorite composer, Rachmaninoff. Now, you have played for quite some time and winning lots of competitions recently and since 2018, and I've just been very excited to learn about your career. You have this penchant for like big pieces. I was reading that you had done the piano transcription of Ein Heldenleben, and also are like a powerhouse with Liszt. What is it about these type of composers, like Rachmaninoff, but these guys, when you do those kind of piano transcriptions, and Liszt, who's just crazy, it takes so much from you. So tell me a little bit about the appeal of these kind of pianistic fireworks that these composers bring.
Absolutely. I grew up in a house where my father was listening to LPs all the time. I grew up with a lot of symphonic repertoire sounding around me. And for instance, Tchaikovsky's Manfred Symphony, my most recent transcription, I fell in love when I was 6 years old. And I think the appeal of the grandeur and range of colors and the power that symphonic works consist became sort of a norm and something that I expect from making music. And because of that, I really do have a tendency to gravitate to heavier repertoire, not because it is heavy, but because the more complex the texture is, the more opportunities it provides for different layerings, different colors, different ideas in terms of interpretation. So we are what we were in the childhood, in a sense. So definitely the roots of this fascination come from the first days of my life.
That's something I think a lot of musicians can really relate to. Terence Blanchard, the great jazz musician, he was influenced by Puccini because his father was an opera singer and played nothing but Puccini in the house. My mother played Spanish guitar and Hispanic music because she was Latina. So these influences, they just spring on us, right, and kind of take us over. And I think, let me ask you this. So for you, artistically, is that challenge an important part of you looking at a work or something like that, because you know that you are good with a musical challenge of that kind of majesty and grandeur?
The challenge is something that is present in any type of work if you're striving to do it good. You can play, a set of Mozart variations that is very transparent and still find a lot of challenges in that. Play Chopin mazurkas and find a lot of challenges in that as well. So I would not say that, yes, it is safe to argue that physicality of some works, are of a particular challenge, and you need to be strong enough and have endurance and all these things that we have to build up build up our stamina and all that for that. Yes, that challenge can be exciting, and there are some programs such as my recent performance of my beloved program of complete Liszt etudes. It is a little bit a marathon-like challenge, but it's also something that each time you play these 24 pieces, you learn something new about the composer, because there's so much in that never two performances can be the same. And so each time bringing this program on stage, you learn something new, and you challenge yourself to do so. So I love challenge as a matter of never being satisfied with where you are. and always striving for something else and for something more. And I think this is a part of our development as a humanity to have something in front of you, kind of be willing to achieve, willing to get. But as I said, I believe the challenge, as a matter of fact, can have so many faces and lie in so different places that it's not just the physicality of these works that are, main challenge of them or the main attraction of them.
Bravo, well said. I appreciate that very much because, I think sometimes from the outside, it appears like, oh, well, it's just a dramatic piece, something like that. But I think people forget too that, like you mentioned Mozart, I always think of the Mozart in Piano Concerto 23, I think, where it has this adagio that is like crystalline, right? You love it, right? But it's also an incredible balancing act between the two hands, right? One note out of place or held too long or too much, pedal, and it blurs, right? It loses its perfection. But that takes us as much intensity, right?
Yeah, sometimes things that sound the simplest, that simplicity and the naturalness with which that simplicity comes is an actual challenge, because we tend to overthink, we try to put too much emotion, too much intention, too much this, too much that, and sometimes to be able to actually withdraw and use your skills to, give just enough color or just enough sense of the development, but not kind of do too much is a very interesting task.
Yeah, it's a fine balance, isn't it? Kind of, between you, the composer, and then the instrument, trying to just kind of put your thoughts into the interpretation, right? And then make it beautiful. Oh, that's really cool. Are there certain pianists that stick out in your memory that you used to listen to or think that was a technique that I admired?
I cannot name one because there are so many different great minds and different talents. I love people with distinct personality. I can name, Arthur Michelangeli, Emil Gilels. I can name Wilhelm Kempff or Horowitz, of course. Wanda Landowska, people who were thinkers to the point where you almost immediately recognize them when you listen to them. And I think when it comes to finding your own voice, an ability to work on your sound production and on your overall pacing, it all boils down to timing and coloring, if you think about it. But you listen to Sviatoslav Richter and you definitely can recognize him from, I don't know, Byron Janis or Argerich or Igor Sokolov, because they all have a very, very distinct voice. So I'm a person who tends to have very strong opinions about, especially with the repertoire that I'm playing myself. The moment I start playing the piece, becomes harder for me to listen to others, because I feel I'm lacking something that I hear there. But at the same time, I'm also a person who has developed a habit of finding something to learn from everyone, even when you not just completely disagree, but dislike, because playing piano if you're trying to do it well, is very difficult. And so people who develop styles of playing or in their interpretations do not speak to you, you still can recognize the quality of what they're doing. It may not be something that you would listen for your own pleasure by yourself, but knowing what it takes to play at that level is something that you still can find certain voicing, certain, matters of sound, of timing, of pacing, of many, many, many things, layers, different voices that you can note and think, this is something that I need to think more about.
I love it. I love it. That's very cool. Now you have your own foundation called Music for Minds. And I love that because obviously what you're saying really kind of backs up that idea of how the mind, the cognitive aspect of a human meets music. So what is the foundation about?
It all started with a simple visit to a school, an art school in Jackson, Mississippi, where I was performing my first recital that was a part of a package of concerts that I won with my gold medal at the Nina Weidman competition in Shreveport.
Yeah.
And this was the first of a long line of performances that came with this competition. And I came there, and the organizers of my performance said, "We have a local art school in the area. Would you like to go and meet the kids? And we have art class, and we know you draw. Maybe it will be something interesting for you." And at that point, it was like 10 years ago. At that point, I wasn't somebody who had a lot of experience with outreach. I was just starting out. I hadn't played much in schools in the United States at that point. I played in nursing homes. I played in hospitals. I played in little bit different environments. But I went there, and it was such a impromptu trip that I didn't have much time to actually think, what would I play for them? And I had a massive, super virtuosic recital that I was playing that night. And you know, there's a kind of notion or understanding that for kids, you need to play something that they would understand, that's something that will be accessible for them, something that they probably would recognize, and then there's, you know, certain nutcrackers come to mind, you know, all that business.
The usual suspects.
And so I went there, and I didn't have any kind of accessible works in with me to do for them. And I'm coming there. There is a big hallway. There's a upright piano in the corner, and some 250 kids on the floor.
Oh my goodness.
We're talking about like 8 to 12 years old.
Wow.
And I'm standing there like,
that's a lot of noise.
Oh my God, what am I gonna do? And I was just, without further ado, I played for them Balakir's Islamé, Undine from Gaspard de la Nuit, and played for them a movement of Beethoven's sonata that I was playing at the time, which was Appassionata.
Oh, wow.
And I have never heard such a silent room full of kids before. Mm-hmm. What I was doing was so unexpected for them that it was like a shock response, because, you know, musicians come with outreach classes and probably often play really simple repertoire. So kids like, okay, we have our music class, whatever, mm-hmm. or a visit or something that they are not necessarily very engaged with, but they saw me doing, you know, fireworks with Islamé. I told them the story that is behind Ravel's Undine, wow. which is a story.
Yeah, it is.
Poem that has an interesting part where, you know, the Undine is trying to seduce this man, and she, I mean, I didn't say seduce. I said she was trying to invite him to join her underwater.
A date.
No, I will not go with you because I'm actually in love with a mortal girl. And every girl in the room went,
That's wonderful.
It is wonderful. But then throughout my performing that year, I tried doing the same in other places and always had this very, very engaged audience. Different years. Some were younger, some were older. Kids that were more like in the mid-teens would come like, oh, I took piano when I was growing up, but I was so bored. But I heard you play and I want to come back to my lessons because I didn't know it can be this interesting. And I get chills when people say that. It's just like, this is my mission, mission accomplished. So
Totally.
yeah, so
I get excited hearing that. I always get excited when children go, oh, there's a lot more to this than these songs, right?
yeah, and so Music for Mind started as an organization to help me, find more opportunities and perform for kids. And I also did 3 seasons of a festival of chamber music in Baltimore, where I had a summer academy and concerts, and was having interesting programming ideas there. I with my tendencies of big things, the festival was largely focused on presenting complete sets of works of different composers in certain instrumentation. Let's say, I don't know, everything that Schumann wrote for piano, viola, and clarinet. Everything, all the chamber works by Richard Strauss, or complete works by Paul Creston for alto saxophone and piano. Complete piano sonatas by George Walker. Complete 24 Liszt etudes and things like that. Complete cello sonatas by Beethoven in the same night. So and the students that I recruited for that were selected specifically to also work on certain sets. Like our first year featured a complete piano quartets by Brahms. Second year featured complete string quartets by Tchaikovsky. And so we only had 12 people, and everyone who performed at the festival coaching the chamber groups, which is very interesting when it comes into this interdisciplinary coaching. Like we had a concert in which we performed George Crumb's Microcosmos 3, which is for 2 pianos and 2 percussionists, and our percussionists were coaching our string quartets. And it's very interesting because the insight that they can give sometimes can be a little bit more from a side, like looking at the big picture, but with a sense of rhythm, of the very, very refined sense of time. So, mixing and matching that was something that I enjoyed very much.
Wow, it just sounds like a great learning opportunity on many ways. I always loved that. I was an opera singer, and one of the things I loved working on new opera singing. One of the things I loved, though, was working on new operas where you had to coordinate between strings and percussion and stuff like that, because some of the musical movements were not as recognizable. And how people learn. I learned so much from the orchestra, and eventually they learned from me too, because sometimes you have in some circumstances you've kind of older conductors and stuff like that when you're first starting out in some of the places you perform, and you end up leading the orchestra in some of those situations, but they know that and they come and help you. So it's beautiful. Well, I love that idea. I think bringing that kind of challenging mindset to kids, I never wanted to dumb it down for children. It was always like, they should see what it really is, so that they get that palpable excitement that the parents do who fall in love with it. We've done years of studies now to know that children who are exposed to classical music at an early age get inspired, they grow in learning, they grow in curiosity. Even if it's not music, it doesn't matter. Mathematicians have been inspired by music. I mean, look at Albert Einstein, and the world's first astrophysicist, inspired by his violin. So I think it's an important part of learning, and I'm really glad that you're doing it. Very glad.
I personally know quite a number of scientists that are brilliant in what they do in different areas of science, who have been amateur musicians ever since they learned to play an instrument as a child, and they did not become professional musicians, but they became good enough to get together with friends and play, you know, chamber music together and enjoy that. And it seems to be quite a companion for people throughout their lives.
Definitely. Oh, I still sing. I still
Yeah.
sing. So Rachmaninoff's 150th birthday, you have this wonderful concert coming up here in New York. Tell us all about it and what you'll be playing.
I'm playing a handful of notes. I'm playing a program that features work that Rachmaninoff wrote when he was still quite young, the Six Moments Musical, which is closing the program. I'm playing the Corelli Variations, which is his last published solo piano work that he wrote at the end of his life.
And nobody ever hears it. It's
I mean,
great.
it's not played enough, I would say. Yeah,
For as interesting and beautiful it is as
it's
it is.
very beautiful. It's very interesting. It's extremely nostalgic, multi-layered, and I think the amount of kind of inner sadness and drama that this work has probably is part of the reason why it's not performed much, because I'm completely torn myself when I'm in the process of performing it. And another work that I am presenting is my own transcription of Rachmaninoff's Cello Sonata, which I transcribed for piano solo. And that will be not just performed by me, but I'm also going to take advantage of the DiMenna Center for Classical Music facility and use their wonderful big screen to project the score of my transcription at the time of me playing it. So everyone who can read the notes will be able to see it.
Oh, I love that. I love that idea. You know, I've been begging for that, especially with chamber music and piano, because I love to follow. I'll listen if they have a score on YouTube and it's a piece I know.
Cool concept, right?
Yeah, it's a very cool concept because even if you have a busy mind, it keeps you listening because you have something to follow. You know, and unfortunately, I think that's kind of the result of 20 years of social media is that people really need something to follow now, like prompts. Like now you applaud. Now you listen to this section too. And so on and so forth. So I think that's genius. I love it. I love it. And I wouldn't. It's if we can watch a soundtrack to a motion picture with the movie playing and still appreciate the orchestra, certainly we can have the music going by. Well, that's really cool. So this is a world premiere of your transcription.
No, it's not a world premiere. The transcription was written in 2014, and I have played it in quite a bit of places since then. And
a New York premiere then.
Last of the year, the score of it was published. The premiere was when I was still a doctoral student at the University of Miami, and it was a part of one of my doctoral recitals in which I played both the transcription of Rachmaninoff Cello Sonata and the transcription of Einl Handelleben, which later became a centerpiece of my thesis, my doctoral thesis, in which I described the process and the needed steps to how to work with orchestral music and orchestral score to effectively transcribe it for piano solo.
Wow. Beautiful, beautiful. That's a real puzzle too. It must be in writing it, right? Because you have a cello obbligato with an accompaniment, which also has an obbligato in vocal response, right? So that's very tricky thing to write. Brava! It's really cool. So, well, at least New Yorkers will finally get to see it, and hopefully we can sell more copies of it now that it's published. We certainly want to get that out. So that's wonderful. Well, I'm really excited for this concert. I wish I could be there. Unfortunately, I'm not in New York that particular weekend, but just reading about you and hearing about what you're doing made me very excited to talk to you about this special 150th anniversary of Rachmaninoff's birth, who is again a very beloved composer to all of us. I think that everyone should come out and see this amazing concert, especially if you're going to get rare works like the Corelli variations and this original cello sonata, arranged by Asiya. So wonderful, wonderful. Is there anything you want to tell people why they should come to the concert?
Yeah, I mean, Rachmaninoff has been such an incredible figure for me as a pianist and as a person who was born in Russia and, of course, knew his music from the very, very early age.
Mm-hmm.
I would never think that I would get to perform a recital on his birthday on such a round date.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like a middle culmination of this year for me, because this year I'm actually performing his complete piano solo music in 6 programs. There is a series in Miami called Friends of Chamber Music of Miami, for which every 2 months in increments in 6 recitals I'm playing complete works of his, including all of the works I actually played last week that he even hasn't assigned an opus number for.
Wow.
Everything. And so this recital on April 1st is sort of a condensed a version of this big project for me. And I'm very honored that I have this opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I'm sure everyone will have a wonderful time at the concert. Wonderful, great. Beautiful interview. You did perfectly.
Thank you.
Are you happy? Happy with it? I think it went well.
Conversation, yes, absolutely.
Well, excellent. Let's leave it there then, and that'll be a nice promo. It won't be too long, so people will watch it, and I'll put it out at the beginning of next week so that people will have time to circulate it on social media and so on and so forth, and you'll be able to advertise it too. What I'll do is I'll put a little bit of you playing. If you have a video that you would like me to put at the beginning, I put about 30 seconds of the performer performing, so that people can see you in the concert venue. So I put that in, you can set, if it's on YouTube, I can just download it. So you can send me any YouTube links you have, or if it's a special video that you want to include. And don't worry about copyright. Under 30 seconds, there is no copyright. So that's why I keep it short. So we'll put that at the beginning, and I'll put the concert information, and I'll put your links and everything like that in it, including Music for Minds. So, and all those links will also go into the descriptor on YouTube. But I'll also make shorter little versions, like little promo versions for reels and stories. So I might take that last part that you were talking about, Rachmaninoff, and put that as just a short video. You've seen the short videos where they're like less than a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something like that. Okay, cool. I really wish I could hear. Is someone going to record it so I could hear it, or is someone going to be there with a camera?
Filming and recording it, so there definitely will be a copy of both concerts, mine and Anastasia's.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Well, great. Yeah, so I'll work it out with Anastasia. Don't worry about that. And I'm really glad that you took the time. You've inspired me. You've really made me think about children again. When I was an opera singer, I used to perform that way for children. I would go as an intern at opera companies. You go to all the high schools and kids like that. And people were like, "Oh, let's dumb it down and make it simple." I'm like, no. Let's not do that. Let's just make it the music that it is. And they wouldn't do it. And they were like, "No, you're going to sing this. You're going to sing that." And I'm like, great. So they had a woman singing the Gypsy song from Trovatore. Strida le vampa. That's a great Liszt transcription. So they say, so the mezzo was sick that day. So what I did is I played the part, because I said, well, the only thing I know is Strida le vampa. So they were like, what? I said, yeah, I'll have to sing Strida le vampa. So I sang Strida le vampa, but I did it with I was like, imagine these are flames, coming up around me. Yeah.
So cool.
It was really fun.
Children, what I love to say when nobody's listening is like, children are not idiots.
They're not.
You should not expect them to be like dumb. They can perceive and understand and feel everything. Children are very, very sensitive. In certain ways, children are more sensitive than some adults are, because they're developing, they need to be very aware of what's around them. So if you just give them right things, those right things go right in. So it should not be like, it needs to be something more,
they'll be bored instantly.
Exactly. And I don't know whether they're really that excited hearing pum 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 100,000 30 seconds time,
That's right.
As much as I love that ballet, don't get me wrong, but
every year they do it, so it's beautiful. But yeah, but they don't need to hear it there. They need to hear what an actual concert pianist does, right? All right. Well, brava. Mwah. Toi, toi, toi.